I need 8 girls and 8 boys. This is about to be a battle between the sexes. Okay, so can 8 people run up here? If not, I'm gonna drag you up here. So
8 girls, 8 guys.
8 guys, girls over here, guys
Come
over
on,
here.
Girls, come on.
Thank you, Javin. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, girls.
Come on.
Yes.
Play along. It'll make it more fun.
Yes, I love the bravery. Amazing,
I don't wanna
amazing.
disqualify
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 3 more. Yes, girls. Yes.
1, 2, 3. Come on,
1,
Shiloh.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need 1 more girl.
Wait.
All right, come on, guys. Let's go. What is going on over here? Why are there only 3 guys over
No, we
here?
have 4. Can we
1,
get
2,
Ace
3,
up here?
4.
No. Come on. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, we might just do 5 and 5. How about
5 and
that?
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, now we have all these girls.
These girls are awesome. Let's
1, 2, 3, 4,
go. Okay,
right,
yeah.
5 and
1,
5.
2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, go.
5 and 5. Thank you, girls. All right.
Thank you. The ladies came through.
Okay.
You guys did too. Thanks.
So,
A little late, but you came through.
all right.
All right. So
Because
this.
the questions are on the screen, right?
Yeah.
So how about you guys come in a little bit closer? A little bit closer because you're going to go, well, you're first. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up here and you're going to come up here. 1 and 1. Face each other. Yes, face each other. And the screen is going to say the question. So Day, you may want to come over here and read it from the screen.
Hey, y'all ever seen Family Feud? But
So
this is of the sexes. Okay, I'm going to ask the question. Whoever hits the button first gets to answer, okay?
And you could see what the topic is about.
Ready? So it's about love or infatuation.
Right.
Dr. Dre is going to give you more
In
details.
this day and age, you know, a lot of times, if you're young, if you're not in a relationship, raise your hand if you are not married and you're single. Okay, right? Well, okay, now raise your hand if you're under 20 and that falls into your category. Okay. And if you're over 20 and you're single and not married. Okay. So, you know, as we go along in life, there's different stages of emotional development and spiritual development and all the categories that we need to have a healthy relationship. Sometimes it gets a little tricky between love and infatuation. And we get a lot of questions in this arena. I've taught a lot of this content in public schools, and kids want to talk about this. How do you know this? And how do you know that? Which is thus how this show was born. So, Daya is going to give you the question, and, you know, I know she's a girl, but, you know, if you want to get the buzzer first, whoever gets that buzzer first gets the answer.
On each other,
Okay.
okay? All right, love or infatuation? Do you know the difference? Let's test your knowledge. All right, ready? Which one makes you possessive over that person? Love or infatuation? You got it, girl!
Daya, come stand here. Okay, so next one's up. Just go up.
All right, the next 2?
Oh, hold the mic for the answer to them when they're answering.
Which one gives you a deep attraction?
Love.
Yes, love.
Very good. All right.
Wow, girls are 2 for 0 right now. Okay, ready? Which one gives you, okay, love or infatuation gives you a strong desire to want that person?
Love.
Okay, so that one is, you got one more chance. Let's see who's faster. Ready? And no, I didn't say go. Okay,
okay.
ready, set, go. Why you give it to him, girl? It's all right. So what's the answer? Come. Yup, okay.
Thank you, Zach. All right. Next up.
All right, it's 2-1 right now. And yeah, 2-1. Okay. You ready, Shiloh? It almost always leaps quickly into bloom.
Wait, I just say it again?
Is this
No.
love or infatuation?
He just hit the buzzer because he wanted to be, and he's not prepared.
All right,
So,
you're just going to have to tell me what you think it
Maria-
is.
No, Maria gets to answer.
Yes, I got a chance to guess. Give me the love.
Nope.
Infatuation.
You got it, girl. Maria got it. Okay. It's 3-1. You guys, it's so sad. It's okay. Okay, ready? Is this love or infatuation? Which one makes you feel like you must get married right away?
Wait. Oh, infatuation.
Oh, you got that. All right. Let's go. Okay.
Next up.
Next one. We're going to do, everybody gets 2 questions. Okay. So right now we're looking at 3-2. Okay, guys? All right. Love or infatuation? Which one do you fall into? Like you fall. Do you guys get it? You guys were both kind of confused. Okay. You're going to get it, Jack. Okay, so which one do you you fall into? That was the question. I'm sorry if that was confusing, but what's your answer?
This is a pretty tough question. I'm gonna say love.
Infatuation.
You got it, girl! All right, it's 4-2. 4-2. Okay. Love or infatuation? Which one is a decision? All right, Elijah.
Love.
You got it! Okay, we're looking at 4-3. Okay, which one is an emotion? Ooh, that was I felt like that was tied. Okay, let's try again. And go. Oh, darn it, I still couldn't tell. What do you guys, okay, what does the audience think? Does it go to the girl or the guy? Okay, ladies, what do you think? Which one is an emotion?
Love.
Infatuation.
He just changed voices. Okay, so now we got 4-4. Oh, this is a tiebreaker. You have to, this is very serious right now. It is 4-4. Hands down. How about take a step back? Take a step back, Maria and Shiloh. This is gonna determine who is better, women or men. Just kidding. We're both made in the image of God. Okay, ready? Love or infatuation? Which one grows with time?
Love.
Oh, the boys win this round!
All right.
Congratulations, boys.
Very fun. Here, why don't
Everybody
you
wins.
give the
So
boys?
here you go.
So we have an 8 because Elevate Life is the sponsor today. That's the Elevate Life Educational Foundation. Little 8 for you girls and guys to remember your time in the show. Thank you. Give them another hand.
Nice. That was a close one. It was looking like the women were going to take it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are about to start our show. I'm so excited to introduce our first set of panelists for the first half of the Explicit show. Let's have Delana DeBrinket come on up, and we'll have the ladies start over here. Give her a hand, yes. Gabrielle Sellier. I don't know if I said her last name. Did I say your last name right? How do you say it? Seiler. Gabrielle Seiler. And on this side, we have Tiago Rodriguez. Give him a hand. And Alexis Vasquez. Come on up. All right. So I'm going to take a few minutes with each one of them to allow them to tell you a snippet of their story. Like I said, each one of them filled out an inquiry, so we know a little bit about them. And they're going to give you more information, and then we're going to do a Q&A after they each speak about themselves. So what I know about Alex is I met him 2 years ago when he was a teacher at Purpose Academy. Are all the mics on, Isaiah? Yes. Okay. There you go.
Hello.
So just so you guys know, once I, turn it over to you to speak, you have 5 minutes. And I know it's hard to condense your snippet of your story, get all the high points, but at 5 minutes, I'm gonna go land the plane, and then we're gonna go, thank you so much, we'll get back to you in Q&A, and then we're gonna move on and on. So who can be our timekeeper back there? Laura, maybe can that be you? put your timer on? All right, 5 minutes. So Alex, you want me to hold your stuff or you're good?
Sure.
Or I could give you this table right next to you.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. You know, you always gotta have a notebook.
Yes.
At least I do.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, so take it away, Alex.
Hello, my name is Alexis Vasquez. I graduated high school in 2006. In 2007, I got hit by a car because I took my girlfriend at the time out to dinner at the beach right over here. So while we were crossing the street to go back to my car, a car hit us both. My girlfriend broke several broken bones, as did I. However, my condition was more critical. I was instantly unconscious and I wasn't breathing. All the paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, just everybody that arrived at the scene, they thought that I was dead. As soon as they realized that I was not dead, they thought that I was going to die very, very soon. We were both sent to our local trauma center, and then from there, I was sent to another hospital that specializes in traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries because I suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. I was in a coma for 3 months. So I had to learn to walk, had to learn to talk, had to learn to be independent, completely independent. I was like a baby, an infant, but I was already 20 years old. I graduated from high school like a year before, so I was already older. It was in that time when God became real to me, became exactly who I needed to be. So I pray that my story not only motivates you, because I realized that I was able to walk and was able to, even though at the time it didn't seem like it, but I was able to realize that God gave me the strength and I was able to move my legs and my feet. And I was like, all right, so let's do it. So I pray not only does it motivate you to move beyond what you think your limits are, it gives you the capacity to influence others, because that's what my goal is, to allow other people to realize that their life is not over. Thank you.
Alex, that was awesome, but you do have another minute, so can you just elaborate, what was the hardest thing to overcome? Like, how did you overcome? Give us one tip of, what did that look like?
One tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if you give me a second. I was kind of expecting this for Q&A, but one tip. Okay, so, Tony Robbins, I was listening to Tony Robbins. Who doesn't listen to Tony Robbins? So he likes to say, if you like to move, if you want to improve and progress in your relationships, your career, whatever, there are 3 P's you have to overcome. 3 P's. The first one is that you have to realize your problem is not permanent. Your problem is not permanent. So yeah, you're suffering something, but you can overcome it. So your problem is not permanent. The next problem is pervasive. You have to realize that because it's raining outside doesn't mean that the day is horrible. One thing doesn't lead to another. You have to meet each challenge as it comes. Finally, you have to realize that you shouldn't take things personal. Because when I realized that I was not the only person that was suffering, that I was not the only person that thought my world was over, I realized, like, okay, all right, let's influence others. Because I thought my world was over when I was not able to walk. And I thought my world was over when I was not able to talk. But when I realized, like, okay, I can learn to do this. It wasn't easy, not easy one bit. But when I realized that other people think that their world is over because they're trying to quit smoking, but they always grab another cigarette at the last second. Their world is not over. They just have to realize, like, you can stop, you can stop, you can stop, but you have to, like, motivate yourself.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, so much. All right. Let's hear from Tiago.
Hi guys, my name is Tiago. I came here today to hopefully inspire someone and give people hope, because I remember when I was sitting in those chairs and I just felt hopeless, like I couldn't chase after my dreams. So in order to like fully understand how I felt hopeless, I want to share a story of my past. I came from a broken home with no mom or dad. I was in homelessness My dad left when I was 4. The day I was born, my mom got in a serious car accident, and she had to go to the hospital, and I had to get cut out of her stomach a month earlier. I was going to die. And that was the day that doctors prescribed her Oxycontin. So the day I was born was the day my mom became a drug addict. And what that looked like for me was poverty. It was no AC, it was no power, it was no food, it was no light. It was just hard. It was a lot harder than a lot of people have it right now. So I just remember sitting there hopeless that I couldn't chase after my dreams. And more about my life. By the time I was 12, like, I stopped living with my mom because she was going in and out of rehab so much that I started bouncing around other homes. By the time I was 14, I started working full time because I had to get my own food and pay my own bills. Like, I was forced at a very young age to take accountability and to mature, yeah. By 17, I was homeless again, and Jeff and Andrea took me into their house and raised me as their own child. And in that moment, I dedicated my life, and I said, I will not go back to where I was. I will do everything I can in my power to come out of that poverty and chase after my dreams. By 18, I worked so hard, I was managing Chipotle's and restaurants, and by 21, I bought a house, and here I am today, 25. I own 2 businesses. I'm about to buy my second house. My startup company made over $900,000, and the restaurant I bought made over. So I'm 25. I $1.1 million in revenue for myself, not for myself, for my businesses, but when I was sitting there broke and like just worried, making $10 an hour, I had no idea I would be able to be here at 25. And there's nothing special about me. I didn't have any special talents. I didn't go to college. I dropped out at 9th grade just to work more. I didn't have like a singing voice or a football talent. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to make money and like have a family and be able to be free and present for my family. So I just want to like encourage you guys that no matter where you're at, you can definitely obtain your dreams. It just takes a lot of hard work and dedication.
Wow,
I
thank
still
you.
have 2 minutes.
Thank you for sharing all that. Gabrielle, we'd love to hear your story.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I thought it was on. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I met the Hazims when I came to TLT last year in the summertime, so I haven't been around that long. But I came out of a divorced home, and I wasn't really raised super one way or another about religion. Kind of just grew up lost and distracted. I can't say that my story is nearly as inspiring as your guys's or as powerful, but I definitely grew up with a lot of like just confusion, and I didn't know where I was going, just kind of lost. And I didn't have any clear path to get anywhere or to do anything with my life. And even though I've been brought up in a home with tremendous blessings, there's also a lot of minute complications and hard to describe like challenges that come along with that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody's family has that. And so when I was younger, I just kind of latched on to nothing. It was either nothing or whatever was floating by. So in high school, my parents got divorced when I was 13, and we moved. We moved across the county. I didn't really know anybody, but I wasn't that worried about it. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do my little drawings and keep my head down. But you know, I started hanging out with some people who did some stuff that I wasn't used to, and they introduced me to different types of drugs, and so I started to do everything that I wanted to do that nobody was going to tell me I couldn't. And that kind of changes the way your brain thinks. So I was probably smoking pot every day for 6 or 7 years. I started when I was 13 or 14. And it kind of changed the way I thought. It made me a lot more susceptible to other things. So after, doing that for a couple years, I kind of fell into just like the social media stuff, like where I couldn't get off of the internet. I was terminally online. Somebody said that the other day, and I thought that was really funny. And it really influenced the way I thought about the world, politics, anything. So I took a worldview that was really not good for myself or others, and it was very kind of hedonistic and nihilistic. Like, I didn't care about anything. I didn't want to die, but I could die. I was kind of indifferent about anything. I couldn't trust anything. I felt like I couldn't believe anything I heard, so I just kind of was like, well, I'll just live in my smoked out bubble until something happens. I don't know. So then I turn slowly, like, that nothingness turned to gravitating towards, look, I need some sort of community. And the LGBT is where I found that, and the community there. The people were so open and friendly, and they thought like I thought. They acted like I acted. They wanted what I wanted, which was just to be amongst a group and to have a doctrine of sorts. So that's where I found myself. And then slowly, bisexuality turned to lesbianism, turned to gender confusion, and like it doesn't come with mental clarity or wellness. I'll just put it that way. So I was really getting lost in that whole thing, and kind of just, I felt like trauma had led me there, and I didn't think I had a way out. So, but then, time passed, and I had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and everything changed, and the scales have been removed, and I have a community and a solid foundation that I can lean on and stand on, and I don't have to worry about that form of deception. And God is healing me day by day, so I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you. All right, Miss Delana.
Hello. My name is Delana. I am 22 years old. I'm newly married, and it took a lot of self-growth to get to that point where I could be married, because there was a while there where, even though my entire life I knew that I was going to be an amazing mother, an amazing wife, there was a large period of time through my teens and early 20s where I decided that I probably was never going to get married. And this was because at the age of 14, I dove headfirst into the LGBT life, and I was filled with so much guilt and shame that I started smoking weed every single day to just kind of get out of my own head, and so I didn't feel the way that I was feeling. And this went on all throughout high school and college, where these were my friends, this was my community. I stopped playing lacrosse, which I loved playing sports all throughout my life, but I would rather go hang out with my girlfriend and smoke weed in her garage than go to practice when it was, cold and, exercise. And so I lived that life for a very long time, and I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I never liked myself. I always assumed that people were shaming me. I always assumed that no one would accept me, even though everyone around me was like, hey, we love you, no matter what decisions you make. I always assumed that they were lying because I didn't accept me, and I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I knew that it was not the lifestyle that I wanted or that God wanted for me. And it wasn't until I came home from college in 2020, because the pandemic hit, and my brother had introduced me to someone that had gone through the same thing that I went through, but was given a different perspective on it. And so, for a little bit of background, when I was 14 and I started having these feelings, everyone around me was like, oh, you were born this way. This is who you are. This is now your entire identity. You are now a gay person. This is exactly how God made you. You should love and accept yourself. And that was always really hard for me, but that was all that was told to me throughout all those years. It was like, you should be proud of who you are. You should be prideful of how you're feeling. And it wasn't until I had met this friend of my brother's that kind of told me a different perspective on it, of how this is just another temptation that is thrown at you. This is another worldly desire that you're given, that you can choose to not go down that path. And I had never heard that before. Everyone had always told me, like, oh, you can't choose to be gay. It's just who you are. And then getting this second perspective of, oh, it is a choice, just like you can choose to not eat a dozen donuts every day. Like, you can choose to not have the gluttony. Yes, it feels amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that sugar high. But that doesn't need to be who you are. You don't need to choose to be an obese person that eats fast food every single day. That's just, it doesn't need to be your entire identity. And so that was just a completely different perspective I had never heard before. And it kind of really opened my eyes to how I have the choice to live the life that I know that God has for me, and I don't need to be tempted other ways. I don't need to be living my life the way that the world believes that I was born this way. This is how I should be living my life. Like, don't you want to be cool? Everyone's doing it, you know, all those phrases or whatever that everyone uses. But so that was a big eye-opener for me, and I was able to get through it, of course, with the grace of God, being able to change my heart and direct me in those ways. It took a lot of work and several years of choosing the path I wanted to go on and then falling into temptation again and again. It was not an overnight transformation. It took a long time, but I was able to meet the man that I'm now married to and fall in love and let him in. And yeah, and just live the life that I know that God had intended for me. Because as I said before, I always wanted to be a mother, and I just can't help but think, like, man, my kids must be awesome for the devil to be trying to stop them from happening over and over and over again. Like, they're gonna change the world. And so that was a different perspective I was able to have on it, of just these are just hurdles that I had to go through, and now I'm able to share my story to maybe help some other people that are feeling the same way and don't know what to do about it.
Praise God.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're going to have to borrow one of your mics. So if a question comes to you, I don't need it. You can hold that. So if a question comes to you and you don't have a mic, just reach out. I'm just going to put this over here, Alex. Oh, you don't need it anymore? Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so now we have a little section of Q&A. And you don't need to raise your hand with questions, because if you RSVP'd and you submitted your questions, we have your questions right here. So, yeah, we're excited to do that. We're going to go back and forth, Daya and I. Do you have a question you want to start out with?
I do. So we're going to start with you, Alex. This is about career. What did you want to be when you were a kid versus what you do for a living now, and how did your injury affect that?
Wow, great question. Thank you so much. Let me first say that is incredible. That was incredible from all of you. Incredible, incredible, incredible. Each testimony shows the power and greatness of our God. So, as a kid, I always wanted to be a producer. That's what I did. My mother was the best piano player in Cuba.
Wow.
I just always grew up in music. I wanted to be a producer. I knew that at a young age because my mother was always practicing and playing at churches and whatnot. So I knew I was always with the sound and setting up all the equipment. So I wanted to be a producer, or the actual term is like a gaffer, start off as a gaffer. Like that tape, that's called gaff tape. So that's the stuff that I did. Like I put it all up everywhere. The speakers up, everything. So I wanted to be a producer. And then when I was 20, I got hit by a car, as I said. And the music, like my mother played piano, I played the drums, played the guitar. As long as it vibrated, I played it. I made a song with it. I worked in a recording studio. So as long as it vibrated, I would have figured out how to make a melody with it. I got hit by a car. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, I couldn't move anything. I was, basically, they thought I was paralyzed. So music was gone. I couldn't do music. So I had to figure out how I can figure something out. I had to do something. So and then I started going to my church. They have a media team. So I was like, oh, I love media. I did music. I worked in a recording studio. So I know I'm very familiar with the equipment. They're like, oh, well, we have a television ministry and program and stuff. Come to the studio and let me see what you can do. So I went to the studio a couple times. I saw like, oh, I wasn't joking. Like, I actually know like where this cable should go and what this light does and stuff. So they're like, all right. So they allowed me to keep coming back. Fast forward now, I want to say 10 years. I'm not doing production as a profession because I'm not as good as the 20-year-old, because I'm going to be honest, the worst part of my brain affected was the brainstem. the brainstem and cerebellum. Your cerebellum controls things that you don't initially have control of. It controls things like your breathing, your heart rate. You do have control over that, but you gotta work towards it. You gotta eat right. Your brainstem, on the other hand, controls your nerves and muscles. So as a result, I shake. You guys probably all see me shaking now because I'm talking, I'm nervous. So I shake. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I wouldn't trust myself with half of this equipment with the shakes. I mean, they gave me a camera back there. I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? I was like, all right.
So Alex, just to get you to direct that a little bit, I love this question for you because I know there's people out there who maybe their dream was to be a sports player and they had an injury. And oh my gosh, my whole vision for my future is down the drain. Now what? And then you get in a rut and you go, and you get lost. But you are an amazing overcomer story. It didn't matter that you didn't want to be an athlete or whatever. You had a dream and you had to pivot. So
big pivot.
Right, a big pivot. And we're so blessed that you're here today. And I know, talk a little bit about what your vision is for you as a speaker and a motivator. And, that's very important that God, maybe, everything happens for a reason, right?
Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And if it doesn't happen, it's for a reason, like you're not meant to do that. Or the biggest turning point in my testimony happened because I read the Bible a lot. Like I'm always reading, like I carry with me now. So I'm always reading. The biggest turning point in my testimony was when I read Job. Job is my favorite book of the Bible because he was a rich, wealthy man, like, normal, rich, wealthy. But then he lost everything, everything. He had like a big illness and the devil was like, I'm going after you. And God said, okay, you can do it. You can do it. God, the devil asked God, can I go after your servant Job? He said, yeah. So he did. Even though he did all that, Job worshiped God even harder. His life completely became even more wealthy. He had the most beautiful children. Like, it was incredible. Like, what the devil meant for evil, God turned to good. Yeah. Right? And then my turning point was when I read Job 40:36, where it says, Job answered the Lord. He said, I am unworthy. So like all these people here, they said, I'm just a normal person. I was just doing what everyone else was doing. But I fell into this. Or my man, he's like, I was just, I'm not special, which is true. I'm not special at all. I'm just unworthy. But it wasn't until I said, God, I'm your vessel. Fill me. Let me be that person that helps. Then life turned around.
Wow, what a testimony. Give him a hand. Amazing, right? Okay. Well, let's see. So, Gabrielle.
Yes.
What advice would you give somebody who feels the way you felt in those years of maybe feeling uncomfortable in your own skin? I mean, put it in your own words, but confused about their gender, and now you're seeing it from a different perspective. Like, back to your younger self. Mm-hmm. Dear younger me, I wish I knew this then.
That reality is objective and not changeable.
Explain that.
Okay, so I couldn't pick whatever I wanted. I wanted to be a man. I wanted to not be a woman. There's a huge wave of this going on in our generation right now, but I didn't realize that that was not up to me to choose that, even to choose the other gender to be attracted to. It didn't always feel like a choice, but I was letting it, continue. Same thing. I used to be 250 pounds, and I was allowing that to happen. That didn't happen to me. I made the choices that led me there. So, like Delana was saying, you can choose to direct yourself in another path. So, when I got saved, my sister prayed over me, and I did not want to hear it. I was like, I'm gay, I'm all this stuff. I don't want to hear your Bible thumping. Get this out of my face. But she asked me to pray for her one night, or to pray for me, pray over me one night. She didn't make me do anything. I just sat there. And after that, something clicked. I realized that the Bible was not written by man, that God supernaturally gave this book to humankind to learn what we need to do, where we need to go, where we came from, and why everything's like this. So that my turning point, I guess I would say to somebody who's confused and feels like they're in the wrong body or God didn't choose right for them, is that yes, he did. And you have to trust over the feelings that you feel that yes, God made you exactly who he made you, when he made you. You're made for such a time as this. And if you're having these feelings, I learned that that's part of my testimony to share for other people who are feeling like this. And that is what we do with this stuff now. Now that Alex went through his accident, he can share with other people who are going through the same thing. So trusting in the objective reality that God made. The systems of gender that he made are true and they work. It's like perverting it. Well, that's a strong word to most people, but to me that just means not used the correct way. So I was perverting my gender by trying to be like a man. I was never going to be a man. I think when that clicked in my head, it was around the same time I was getting saved. All this stuff was kind of happening at the same time. The scales were removed. And kind of just realizing and trusting, okay, I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good about my body. I don't feel good about my societal role. I don't feel like I want to ever give birth or have children. But I trust you, God. I just trust that this is how you made me. You made me a woman for a reason, that there's a purpose for me to be this way. And to just kind of surrender my feelings about it. Just lay it down and be like, okay, I feel this way, but it's not like the end all be all. These things change every day, so I'm just going to give it up. And that is what I would say to somebody who's struggling with this. Just lean not on your own understanding and let the Lord guide your path.
That was a super duper prayer your sister prayed over you. Because you had some massive revelations just like that.
It was while I was
Amazing.
sitting there, I was like,
that's
okay, so the
amazing.
Bible's real. I trust it. That's the word of God. Wow.
That's a miracle.
I was
Total
an
miracle.
atheist 3 months earlier.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Wow. I wish everybody gets that revelation that quick. Dea, you have any follow-up questions, or maybe for Tiago? Or
Okay, so Tiago, your question is, what should you do if you have no money and want to start a business?
Well, you need money to start a business. You need money to make money. I found that out very early on, that all the richest people, their money's making them money. They're not working and spending their time for money. So unfortunately, you need money to start a business. If you can't find people to invest in you and believe in you, start small, start saving up your money with the purpose to buy something to start a business. Even something as small as flipping shoes, you still need a couple $100 to buy the shoes and sell it for more. So
That's a good point. So with that, what advice would you give them for getting a good job?
Or how did you do it? How'd you get started?
Well, I mean, you guys know I came from poverty. For me, it was a lot different. There was a fire under my butt saying, I am not going back to that. I do not want to experience that ever again. So at 15, all the way up until 22, there was not a week in my life where I didn't work overtime.
So that's 7 years.
Yeah.
Grind.
If the job that I had that was paying good didn't want to give me over 40 hours a week, I was working another job. I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have mom or dad money. I didn't have some special talent or a college job that I wanted. It was all I knew is that in order to make money, I needed money. So from that age all the way to 21, I was saving every penny I had towards buying a house. It was very intentional. It was not easy. If all my friends know me as a Jew, because I wasn't going out eating dinner with them, I wasn't going to the mall with them, I wasn't doing all these things because I was broke, and every penny I had needed to go towards that. It was either do or die for me. I don't expect you guys to have that passion because you didn't experience the things I did, but you don't need a special job. I was working in a restaurant and I bought a house as a cook or a manager.
But you were able to tell yourself no.
Yeah, well, I wanted that so bad that it was a $20 meal or a house. It was not even a comparison anymore.
Delayed gratification is on point.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Delana, what would you tell a young person entering college about what I call the common culture experience on the campus?
Good question. I fell hard into the common culture experience on the college campus, especially with experimentation. I'd say is the number one thing that you're going to see on a college campus, where it's not just normalized, but it's encouraged. Saying if you go to college, you have to experiment. You gotta have the true college experience and sleep around. You gotta, oh, you haven't kissed a girl yet? You're in college. Experiment. You should do that. You should see if you like it.
I've heard the term college gay.
Yeah, that's a very common term.
I've heard
I'm
that
college
term.
gay, where, well, while I'm here, I'm just gonna try everything, see what I like, but I know I'm straight, but I'm gonna try it anyway. That is
So that's a thing.
it's a very common thing in college, and it's, at the end of the day, when it comes to like experimentation and stuff, especially like if you know for a fact, not even for a fact, but if you're kind of sure that you're straight and you don't need to test it out, don't, because it's only going to make you more confused. Because we have all these neurons and sensors and everything, nerves in our body that feel good when you're touched and everything like that. And so like if you try all these different things, it just leaves all your options open, and then you're sitting here and you've now met an amazing guy and you're like, oh man, but when I was in college, I liked kissing that girl, so maybe I'm gay. Maybe I shouldn't get married to this amazing guy that's gonna give me an amazing life, because what if I wanna kiss a girl again? Like, because I had that experience. It's like what Dr. Jeff says. It just leads to so much more confusion. Like what Dr. Jeff says, freedom is having no other option. I see that, like, what I get from that phrase, which some of you might know that phrase, some of you don't, but what I see is when you have all these options open, you're so much more confused. No matter what you choose, you're never going to be truly happy because you have all these other options that you could have chose, and it's like, what if? Just you have that constant what if in your brain. While if you only have one option, if you know what path you're going down, you're not thinking about every other option in the world. If you only use DVDs, you're not going to spend 3 hours scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch. It's like, okay, I can either watch The Lion King for the 80th time, or hey, maybe let's switch it up. Like, let's watch this other movie I've only seen 60 times. It's like, you know, you have the smaller options, and it just makes life easier to go through.
So, and what would be an upside of going to college? I don't want to paint a picture like going to college is, you know, you're going to be destroyed. You have to be strong, obviously, in your identity, knowing who you are, why you're there. Mm-hmm. But, you know, what were maybe some of the benefits?
Well, I dropped out of college after a year.
And became an entrepreneur.
Well, one thing that's like it's kind of a different question, answer, whatever, but if you're trying to decide whether you want to go to college or not, think, do I know exactly what I want to do? Have I shadowed someone that has my dream job, and am I like, yes, that is the job that I want. I'm going to go to college to get this degree, so I'm better educated to do that job. Go to college. That's a great idea. Like, go get that degree, go get your dream job. If you're going into college thinking, I have no idea what I want to do, maybe I'll figure it out in the 4 years that I'm there, waste of time and waste of money. Like, college is useful to not just get a degree, but further your education in the subject that you want to be smarter in, that you want to know more about. And yes, it's fun. You get to experience the freedom of not living with your parents. But guess what? Rent, even nowadays, is cheaper than college tuition. You can experience the freedom of living by yourself by going and getting a job, even if it's not the dream job that you want, if it's a way to work your way up to that dream job. Go try it out. Go try it out.
And I would even add to that, you know, any job you have, even as a teenager, you can consider that job like a paid internship. You're getting paid to be there and learn. That's the way I always looked at it. And like Delana said, go shadow somebody. If you're thinking about going to college, or you're even in college, a lot of times people change their majors midstream because you're not sure. Or they finish and they get out and they go, why did I get this degree? I don't even like this. Or I got the job and I'm in it, I'm like, this isn't what I thought. So go try it out. You could always find somebody to shadow, always. You know, if you can't, call me. I like to help young people and open doors for them and get them in places where maybe they couldn't have gotten before. But test it out before you invest the time, the money, and of course, you want to know, why are you on the planet? A big part of TLT is knowing your identity and your purpose. So if you think, oh, I want to do this thing because I'm going to make a lot of money, That's not necessarily aligned with your purpose. Maybe you were made for this thing over here, but it's not in your awareness yet. Maybe you haven't tried it out, and there's no rush, right? So great answer, Delana. And so do you have another question, maybe?
Yeah, so you all filled out a form, correct? And there was one where it said, this really stood out to me, and it was, Tiago, you said, gaming was my escape. To be in another world. It helped me forget about Tiago and all his pain because I was living in another world. Could you touch on this was the most powerful, but I think, how you mentioned how self-harm and depression stemmed from a lack of vision. Once you got vision, though, that went away. Can you elaborate on that?
Good question.
So, given where I came from, I was just so hopeless. My dream is just to be the best husband and best father that I can, because I never had that for my life. And that to me looked like being present with my kids every single day, being able to take them on vacations, and just for them and their kids' kids to never have to worry about the things I've had to worry about. And that just seems so impossible when I was sitting in those chairs. So because of that, I had no reason to wake up every day. I had no reason to go work 60 plus hours a week. Like, it was just a day by day grind. Like, I was just going with the motions and going with, like, I was just following life. I wasn't like taking hold of it and taking charge of it. So there's a Bible verse that says those without vision will perish. And I believe if you don't have a vision and if you don't have something to look forward to and wake up to every day, life is going to be like so pointless, and you're just going to keep going in circles, and that, like, it's very important. And once I found that, everything I did was dedicated towards pursuing that. Like, video games were such a waste of time because they were not getting me any closer to my dream. All my friends were going out and drinking and partying and doing drugs. That was not getting me closer to my dream. Like, when I believed that my dreams were possible, my whole life changed and everything was aligned with that. If one decision I made didn't get me closer to that, then I wasn't making that decision.
Powerful. I mean, have any of you felt that way where you, because of lack of vision, just end up scrolling for hours and hours, or because you don't have a purpose, then you don't know where to allot your time? Like, okay, we only get 24 hours. So with a vision, with a plan, you're able to say, well, I don't need to do this. Like, I need to do this. And I've had seasons of my life where if I was doing something, I had a project, a vision, a goal I needed to meet. Everything else would get cut off because it was like, I need to meet this goal, and I would hit that goal every time I had that intentionality and focus. So yeah, without purpose or vision, we perish. We just go by life kind of lost, like Gabrielle was mentioning earlier.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say a lot of you have heard me say the phrase, hard is the new fun. Because when you do get the vision, and it is hard, and nobody likes the should or I should do this, right? We don't like that. Even if we catch the vision, and now it's like, well, I have this vision, but I still want to do gaming and whatever. So when you start to redefine and hone in on your identity, standing on there strong, finding your purpose, now it's exciting. Now, even something hard is worth it and fun. So that's why I say that. Hard is the new fun. Because, listen, athletes, I don't think they want to go to practice every single day at the hours they have to go and all the crazy stuff. But they love the discipline at the end of the day. They love the medal they win. They love the accomplishment and how their body is healthy. So hard could be the new fun, right? Overcoming those things, when she read in the question that it was escape, right? Was it hard to overcome escaping? Would you say that was directly attached to any one specific thing, or did we already cover it?
I would say I was only escaping at that moment because I didn't think my vision was possible. So I was just stuck in a miserable, depressed life. And video games, I wasn't depressed or in a miserable life. I was doing video games. Like, I was not living Tiago's life anymore. It was just, I didn't have to think about everything anymore.
So something clicked over to where you no longer saw it as impossible.
Yeah. sitting here in one of your camps.
Okay. So getting a big idea, a new big idea.
Yeah,
Finding
just
your
just
identity.
believing my dream is possible, and I don't need rich parents. I don't need college. I don't need a high school degree. Like something inside of me switched, and then everything outside switched as well, along with that.
Alex, did you want to add on to something? I saw you pointing to your journal, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, I want to say congratulations. You definitely had that grit and that grind to just go after it, because I can relate 100%. So remember I told you I had to learn to walk. The days that I did not want to go to the gym or go to therapy and realize, like, oh, I really don't want to do it. Those were the days that I had the best workouts, the best results. So congratulations, congratulations. That reminds me of a Bible verse, Romans 8:28. It says, all things work for good for those that love him. It didn't say that some things or a few things. It said that all things work for good. So everything you went through gave you that grit, gave you that grind. Everything you went through gave you that ability to realize that, you know, we don't really have a choice. There's only an X and Y chromosome. There is no W chromosome. There is no T chromosome. It's only X and Y. That's it. So everything you want, I'm sorry you went through that. Like, I'm sorry we all went through it, but it built us up to who we are.
Awesome. Do you have another one?
Gabrielle. Okay, you mentioned this. Also thought it was so powerful. Comparison is a thief of joy, and accepting yourself right now just as God accepts you. Like you wish you knew that earlier. And then also you said that I'm telling myself that you're telling yourself that right now, and that this part. Live the word, do the word, connect with people, gain fellowship and community like your life depends on it, because it does. How does community affect our lives?
And where did you find that community?
Well, so community is like, that's integral to human beings. Like that's how God made the family unit, to be in a small community, and that community connects with other communities. And I never really felt I had much of that growing up. I grew up scattered all over the county. Like my parents got divorced when those years when you were making friends, and everybody in all my schools knew each other since they were kids. And I didn't, I kind of just outcasted myself because I didn't really, when you go to a new lunchroom and everybody already knows each other, you just sit by yourself. So I just think that having that community is integral to forming relationships with people for the rest of your life and learning who you are as a part of something, because we can't accomplish anything by ourselves. I'm sure you didn't build what you have only by yourself. You grinded in conjunction with other people. You had to have your doctors. You had to know people who brought you out of that mindset, and I also did. And I found community. At first, it was with other young Christians. I didn't go to church for a lot of the beginning of my Christian walk. I had my sister, and she was my Christian. And then I started going to her church and met more people. And then God sent me a therapist who sent me here, and now I have this community. And it has really helped me build up a sense of wanting to do something. That's been the question that you asked him, was it hard to stop escaping? Yes. For me, it has been very hard. I didn't have that fire. I was always very comfortable growing up. You know what I mean? I didn't have to fight for anything. So having that fire, but it's I don't have that within myself, but seeing everybody else in this community that has that fire, and they want to do things, and they want to build things for the kingdom and for this planet while we're here, and make something of ourselves, that encourages me to go and do that as well. And it's still a struggle. I'm not out of the woods on that one. I have to make a conscious decision every time I wake up and to get out of bed and remember Christ and Christ crucified, and he put me here for a reason. I might not know exactly what that is or what that looks like yet, but I got to keep pushing. Got to keep it cranking.
I just want to touch on that. That's so very real. The people that you connect with, your community, who you're around. Dr. Andrea, he said he was in one of your camps, and that's when he knew that it wasn't impossible to chase his dreams. That's why it's so important to find mentors, to find people that are living with fire and passion and going after bigger things than themselves, because it'll rub off on you. And something they say might impact something within you to say, you know what, if she can do it, if he can do it, he came from what and he's still doing it. He was paralyzed and he's still walking. You can do it too. It doesn't matter what your struggle is. We're all struggling because we're human. This is the human experience. And unfortunately, sin is in the world, and bad people are out here, and it's so we are going to experience hardship, but it's still going through it and overcoming, no matter what it is. Whatever your struggle is, you can overcome it. And I'm sure you have a question.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, Laura, what's our time on this section? All right, we only are down to 3 more minutes in this first part of the show. Did you enjoy it so far? Yeah, we have a great second half coming up after a brief intermission. But last thought, so in 1 or 2 sentences, what do you wish you knew when you were in high school or college?
One thing I wish I knew was that I have to take 100% ownership of whatever happens.
Okay,
I have to take 100% ownership.
excellent. Tiago.
Nothing is guaranteed, especially if you chose my route and you're a high school or college dropout. It's a job that's getting you $50,000 a year is not going to fall right into your lap. Like, you have to go out and chase that. If you're out drinking every night or drinking every weekend and doing this, or you have to chase your dreams. Like, it's not going to just come into your lap and fall into place. You have to go make that opportunity.
We had my brother on the podcast recently, and we asked him that, and he said, I wish I would have started younger.
Yeah.
I would tell my younger self, start younger.
And
Don't wait till you're 25, 30, 35, 40. Start younger.
For those of you who do know what you want to do, you were ahead of me already. So, like, chase after that. If that's being a firefighter and going to firefighting school, go get that. Like, don't just keep wasting.
Little plug there. All right, Gabrielle, last thoughts.
I wish I knew Christ. I wish I grew up with a biblical worldview. I feel like
Okay.
that would have rooted out a lot of what I went through early. I wouldn't have had to guess at doctrine to live by. I wouldn't have had
too.
to float. So,
Yep. And Helena.
What I wish I knew when I was younger, or what I could tell my younger self, is if you know what your purpose is, what your passions are, don't let the temptations of the devil steer you away from that. Stand strong, steer forward, and just stay on your path.
Excellent. Well, don't leave yet, guys. So give them a big hand, please. Thank you so much. All of you guys, don't go away. So, okay, so we are actually live on YouTube right now for those who are not here. Hi to those of you who are live on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Very exciting to have that kind of technology. So you're going to meet some wonderful couples, all of which I've known and gotten to know on multiple levels, including family, friends that are like family. Even I got a cousin in the house, right? Okay, so let's do some introductions. Same as last time, I'm going to give you each, not just as a couple, each person 5 minutes, so 10 per couple. So if you don't use your full 5 minutes, it's okay. I'm sure your spouse will fill in. And what do we want to know? Well, you know, obviously they've all had different lengths of being married, and I'm going to ask you a few questions before we get into your 5 minutes so we could just kind of see who's here. But we want to know how long they've been married, if they have children, what's their work life like, do they do ministry, you know, what's their life all about? And then when you guys say your 5 minutes, just share briefly like your family of origin story, and kind of like, you know, the rest of the panelists did. So we can get a snapshot of your background, where you came from, which shows how amazing it is when two couples come together with two totally different backgrounds and what happens, right? Very interesting. So first, how long have you two been married?
Like
A week.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
Out for the newlyweds.
So this is Leilani, my beautiful niece. My sister is her mom. And Caleb, they got married last Friday. Yeah. Yeah, so we could go yesterday. And they're going on their honeymoon when?
29th.
29th. So, like, we just had this window of like, you're still in town, please, please, please. And they said yes. So thank you guys so much for saying yes. And how long have you guys been married?
Been married 5 years. It'll be 5 years in July.
5 years. Okay. Where are the other mics? I know we have a couple more floating around. There should be 2 more mics. All right, bring them on up here. And we'll say that again on the mic. Okay. So how long have you guys been married?
We'll be married 5 years in July.
5 years. And children?
We have 2 kids, David and Ethan, who are 3 and 2. They're a year and 4 days apart.
Okay. And how about you guys?
We'll be 21 years in May.
Wow. And children?
Yes, we have a 20-year-old son. Well, he'll be 20 in March. 15-year-old daughter, and we have a grandchild on the way.
Oh, okay. I was going to say we have no grandparents, but soon.
They got married when they were 10.
I know, right?
That's what I said.
So you're going to hear from a range of experience, as you can see, right? And we have some great questions to ask them all. So let's get started. Leilani, you want to start?
Hello, my name's Leilani. I'm 21. I turned 21 in January, so very new. I'm currently in college getting my bachelor's in science and business management. I met Caleb about maybe more than 3 years ago. He was working at Chick-fil-A, and I started working at Chick-fil-A, and that's where we met. I grew up with a lot of siblings. I'm the oldest of 4, fully biological, and then I have like 3 step siblings and 2 half siblings. And my parents are divorced. They divorced when I was 7. So that, like, my parents are amazing parents. The divorce wasn't messy, but of course it came with challenges. I felt like as the oldest, I had to take care of everyone, and even including my mom. So I think that translated, that's kind of how I am. I'm very much an internalizer, so I don't really feel like people need to take care of me, but I feel like I have to take care of everyone else, which isn't really healthy because I feel like there's a lot of issues that didn't get resolved with me. But like in school, I was the person that a lot of people would come to with their issues. So eventually I started like taking on a lot of people's things that were even mine, but it started to affect me mentally and emotionally, and it translated into my eating habits, my sleeping, my just overall health, how I did school, how I did life. And I would escape mostly through things like entertainment, watching shows. Like I didn't really like my reality, so I would go into other ones, and I missed out a lot in a lot of my life during high school, where I just don't really remember what was really going on in reality. So that was hard. And COVID was actually really good because it took me out of all of that, and it like kind of woke me up. And I was like, wow, like this is what I've been missing. Like this is what makes me really happy, being with my family, being like present. That's when I started working at Chick-fil-A, and I met Caleb, and he helped me to, I guess, figure out the woman I was or am, who God made me to be, and kind of start asking those questions like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What do I actually want out of life? Instead of kind of just going day by day, not really like thinking about it. Because I knew I wanted kids, I knew I wanted a husband, but I didn't think it was like attainable. And so he showed me that.
Awesome, yes, thank you for sharing.
So my name is Caleb. I'm also 21, and I'm kind of like your stereotypical like Christian. I was raised in a Christian home. I was homeschooled. My parents were always on staff at church, and so I was basically always at church. So Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, and then any like program or club that was happening throughout the week, I was there. So I really just enjoyed always being at church, and I really grew up thinking that I would be like in ministry. That's what I thought that I'd grow up to be. But fast forward 16, started working at Chick-fil-A, not ministry, but close to it. And I was there for like 3.5 years. I met Leilani in 2020, I think, and I was working my way through like the leadership roles there. So I was manager, director, trainer, all those different things. And I left Chick-fil-A in 2022 to get my real estate license. So I started doing real estate, and my dad's been doing real estate for like 20 years. So like the day I turned 18, that's when you can get your license. He was like, get your license, get your license, get your license. So I was always just working on getting my license, which is a really good thing to have. I'm glad he did that. But in the meantime, I'm also dating Leilani, or we're married now, but I was dating Leilani, and I was also doing pet sitting, just kind of like a I was in college and, you know, just college kid doing pet sitting. And I very quickly became booked. Like, I just put some things on Facebook, and what turned into pet sitting to make money is now a six-figure business that I have that has really just become completely passive income, and it's helped us to buy our house at 21. So throughout that year, I quit Chick-fil-A, got my real estate license, started a pet sitting business, and then we were just dating for 3 years. We got engaged in August, not July. I turned 21 in July, and then we got engaged in August, and then we also bought our house in August. So throughout that time, we were just fixing up our home throughout the engagement, and then we got married last week. So it's been fun. I'm also the oldest of four, so 4 full siblings. I don't have any half or step siblings, but yeah. So my family is we're a Christian family, and I was always raised that way, oldest of 4, and then they've really helped me to just know, you know, you can basically know who God made you to be, right? So my life, I don't have any like trauma that I come from, but I know what it's like to follow God's plan for your life. Everyone always looks at our relationship like, wow, you guys, it's so crazy like what you're doing. It's like, we're just following God's will for our life, you know? We're really just praying and being obedient to what God has for us. So, yeah.
Wow, excellent.
Hello, my name is Valentina. I'm 26 years old, and I'm not American, so my upbringing was a little different with a lot of different cultural backgrounds. I'm from Venezuela, and I moved here when I was 9 or 10 in 2007. I moved here. My parents were and still are divorced. My mom remarried a believer who practically changed the way me and my mom kind of view the Word of God and view our world and what we live in. And for me especially, kind of showed me that a man who loves Jesus, and I think the difference between a man who does and doesn't, and the ability of them giving their life up to the Lord and, you know, surrendering the side of, like, men can stay and can choose to stay with their wife and their children, which was a big thing that I had to overcome in our marriage, in fear of, well, if my dad left me, then the person who's supposed to love me the most, because he was a parent, why wouldn't Isaac leave me? So that was something that I needed to walk through when we started dating. And then, you know, someone, I don't remember who it was, but I believe it was one of my teachers in high school, always told me when we would talk about it, she would say, just remember that you have an earthly father and you have a heavenly father, and you get to decide what you think your husband is going to be like, whether you're going to continue to put what your earthly father did, who is a sinner just like you, on your future endeavors and your future relationships, or you get to put Christ in front of that. And it wasn't easy. It was really hard, especially because he was in and out of my life. We would reach out here and there. Now that I have children, he does want to be part of my life, and I'm really excited about it. It was hard to get to that excitement part, which Andrea really helped me with, getting into the joy of kind of reliving what could have been with him being in my life. But yeah, so it was really hard going into commitment. It had a weird aspect to it. And then it also was, you know, hard, which Andrea did say, that I did move here when I was pretty young. My parents got a divorce when I was 4 or 5, and so he wasn't here to begin with. So I had to give him grace for that. I had to just accept the fact that God moved me to another country, and he never had the ability to come visit me. And then fast forward to my mom getting married to my now stepdad, Hugo, which I call dad too. He pretty much showed me like what the love of Christ really looks like, and how a man should love a woman, and how a man should treat, you know, their children. I have 2 step siblings, Nicole and Christian, and they're a riot just like me. And so yeah, it is a really big blessing that God sometimes takes things away that don't make sense, and then puts things in your life that you don't really understand until you're now 26 years old and you can kind of see the whole picture. And then I met Isaac in 2014, and we sat next to each other at an event, and my friend Elena joked, I was like, watch him be your husband, and I was like, no. I didn't know much about him, but I just he had long hair. It was just not for me. And not anymore. And then a long time passed, and we didn't talk to one another, but I knew his brother. And then we, church and book club, our church that we both went to had a book club, and then I love reading a lot, a little too much. And then we met because he was the leader, and then we started hanging out more, and then my really good friend was the wife of his best friend, so then we started hanging out even more. And then he lightly asked me, it's like, hey, so I talked to our pastor, and I was thinking that maybe you should lead book club with me. And I was like, okay, sure. And then now we're married with 2 children. Yeah, and in our first year of marriage, it was kind of like a whirlwind. I got pregnant super quickly. It was 4 months after we got married. I got pregnant, and we got married in July, and then in November, first week of November or last week of October, we found out I was pregnant. I was 3 months pregnant already, or 2 months pregnant? I don't remember. Because then I got pregnant really quickly, right after I had the other one. So all the dates gets messed in my head. And then we decided that Isaac did not like his job. And then I got really sick while I was pregnant with David. So God kind of took us out of that, and we started a business, which now is 2 and 3 pending. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you, Val. That was a very entertaining recap. That was good.
Hi, everybody. My name's Isaac. Obviously, this is my wife. I grew up in an amazing home. You know, to hear the stories of those who grew up in broken homes is incredibly sad to me, because I had the privilege and blessing, one of the greatest blessings in the world, of growing up in a home where my dad and mom loved each other, and were an amazing example of what a husband and wife should look like, and what a father and mother should look like. And so I'm incredibly blessed to grow up in that background. Was also homeschooled, and then played football. Athletics through school was always super important to me. Ended up having the opportunity to walk on at the University of Miami, and never saw the field there, but suited up every Saturday and ran through the smoke and all that. But outside, from the outside looking in, people would probably say that my life was borderline perfect, that I was walking the walk that God would have me. Like on campus, I started Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was running a couple other Christian organizations. Just again, outside looking in. But behind closed doors, I was addicted to pornography for a large portion of my life, probably from the time I was 15 to the year before we got married. And thankfully, when I finally opened up to my dad about everything, he, best thing ever, said, I can't help you, but I'm going to find somebody who can. And he found this guy named Jason, and so I started meeting with Jason and paying $175 an hour to sit and talk to somebody, and the best money I ever spent, because that's what God used to free me of that addiction. And the biggest thing that I always harp on when telling this story is the answer that was always given to me. Anytime I'd open up to a pastor or a friend or anything, the answer was always given to me was, you can do it. You have the strength to. But what Jason really allowed me to realize is that, not I, but Christ in me, simply spoken. But the way he laid it out after I had, a few sessions of just explaining, my situation, how, the amount of time, the frequency, won't, I'll spare you all the details, but he essentially said, listen, because of the path that you've taken, because of the path you've walked, it's biologically, neurologically impossible for you to say no to the temptation. Like when the temptation arises, because of the train tracks that you've laid in your mind, because of this journey, it's now impossible for you to say no. And from that moment, it was like I was free. It's like never again. And so many years of not even the temptation, that so thankful that God used Jason in that way to just allow me to see that that I couldn't do it, but Christ could in me and did. And it was right around that time, right before I confessed to my dad and started meeting with Jason. The 2 years leading up to that, God just kept saying the same thing to me: Isaac, I have plans for you beyond what you could ever hope, dream, or imagine, but I need you to be completely mine. And I knew that completely his was letting go of that sin in my life. And that happened in July of 2018, that I let go and started meeting with Jason. We started dating in September. We got engaged in November. We got married the following July. We started a business the next year. We had our first kid the next year. We had our second kid the next year. I became, became self-employed. So everything that I ever dreamed of, hoped for, as soon as I just let go and God took that out of my hand, he gave me back everything that I wanted. And so.
Wow.
Yeah,
We're
it's
going
an
to have
amazing.
some fun with Q&A with that. Thank you, Isaac. Awesome. All right, Claudine.
My name is Claudine. I was born and raised in New York. I moved to Florida when I was 13. I was raised with both of my parents. They're both from Haiti, so I grew up with that Caribbean background. Not every Caribbean family, but my Caribbean family, my parents, they've been married probably 50 years, I'm thinking. But throughout their relationship, I always noticed that there was something that was odd. My mom was very submissive to my dad, but I noticed that my dad had other things going on in the side from, I don't know, probably since I was 3 to probably even throughout high school. So one thing that I always knew is that I would never want to be in a relationship where I was mentally or physically abused, because I grew up seeing that. When I got in trouble, the discipline was very harsh. I have an older sister, so I think she got the brunt of it. So I kind of learned from her what to do and what not to do, and if I'm going to do it, how to do it without my parents finding out whatever it was that I did do. So that was my beginning. That was my life. We moved to Florida. I think I was about 13. I started in 9th grade at Piper High School. And it was a huge shock for me because I grew up, New York. I was in a school that was mostly a lot of Caribbean people, a lot of Spanish people in that section. When I moved to Florida, it was more of a culture shock, not because it was a mix of people, but it was just everyone was so different. The school that I went to, they had a lot of goth. I never seen goth people in New York, at least a section, so it was scary. So I went through a phase, and even, just everyone, they spoke differently. They had the Southern accent. It was just everything was very different for me. So I went through a period where I was in New York, I was more open because I grew up with friends from elementary on to middle school, so I knew them. They were kind of like cousins almost, but when I moved to Florida, I became very sheltered, and my personality changed because I just felt like I didn't fit in with any group. I would have friends, but then I felt like I couldn't trust them or something would happen. So I kind of had a little group of friends, but then I kind of felt like I was always just kind of what'd you say?
They weren't your friends.
They weren't really I could never really find like true friendship growing up. So let's see, when I was about in 10th grade, and I grew up Catholic, and we were the type of Catholic that my parents would send me and my sister off to church every Sunday, but they never prayed. We never prayed together. So it wasn't really never had a relationship with Jesus. But growing up, I always used to see friends that were Christian, and they would talk about Christianity, and I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't know how. I thought that by me saying, oh, I'm Catholic, I'm Christian, that it was the same thing, but I never knew Christianity, I never knew Jesus. So when I was in 10th grade, I dated a few people throughout the years, but, I always had that mentality that I could, I'm not going to accept certain stuff. So I didn't date too much, but I dated. But in 10th grade, I remember I prayed and said, God, I would like to have a long-term relationship with someone that I can get married with. I didn't want to just keep on dating. I wanted to date with purpose and to grow a relationship. And I don't know why. That's one of the only prayers I really remembered, because I wasn't a prayer. I wasn't really raised to pray like that. We would pray like the Our Father prayer and Mother Mary prayer, and that was pretty much it. So during that year, I ended up meeting Dennis. He started school 2 weeks late, so he was very noticeable to all the girls. So everyone was like, oh, did you see that new boy? And because of my personality, I just kind of rejected him because he had too much attention. I didn't like that. I wanted to date someone that was more low-key. He was a little bit, like everyone knew Dennis, and I didn't like that. So so we both we took a class. We were at ROTC, and I guess all the girls used to talk about him, and he just wasn't my type at that time. But then we were in formation, and I could hear him talking to one of the guys, and he's like, Tony, who's that? Actually, I seen him make eye contact with me, and he was asking a friend who was that, and then the friend was like, oh, that's Claudine, and he introduced us. So then I started to like him at that point, because I knew he had interest in me. So from there, high school was a little rough. I started smoking weed with friends, and I think it was mostly because my parents, they always worked really hard, so I was alone a lot of the times. My sister stayed in New York. She didn't move to Florida, so I kind of felt like I was just alone. Started to hang out with bad influencing friends, and felt like everything kind of changed. I went from the girl that was always dressing up to slowly just becoming like a jeans jacket and sneaker kind of girl, because I just didn't care about that kind of stuff. Dennis was actually the first person that started taking me to church. We started going to church on Saturday nights at Calvary. It was kind of like our date nights. And that's where that's where I met Jesus, was at Calvary. So, 7 minutes? Okay. You said 7 minutes? Okay. Okay, so to speed it up, I ended up moving out at probably, I think it was age 18, because my dad was upset with me, and he seemed like he was going to be abusive. I called the police, I left, and I ended up moving with Dennis. We ended up moving together, not married. Long story short, we went to Calvary, and Pastor Bob just happened to have a sermon on pretty much just living together without being married. That moment, that sermon changed our lives. We went up to the altar. I gave my life to Christ. My life was changed dramatically. Although we were living together, we decided that we were going to separate. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Thank you, Claude. Thank you, Claude. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Tag team. Finish the story.
Now I have 2 minutes now.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. My name is Dennis, and I'm also 26 years old. And no.
You do look it though.
Thank you.
You do look.
Thank you. No, I'm just a tad bit older than that. We're going on our 26th year together here in October. So I'm about 28. You guys can figure out. No, but really quick, myself, I did come from a broken home. And but my mom did such a great job parenting my sister and I that I didn't even know what a broken home was. I was all of, you guys forget about this, what I'm about to say. I was 37 years old when I finally understood what a broken home was. I had no clue. And she was the best mom and dad. They got divorced when I was 4 years old. I actually have a little dim memory of them fighting. Not a lot of that, but I have this one memory. So I remember growing up, and it was just my sister, myself, and my mom, and I figured in my head I have to be the man of the house. And I remember us driving by a construction site, and I said to my mom, I think I was 6, "Pull over, Mom." And she said, "What?" I said, "Pull over." She said, "For what?" I said, "You see that construction site over there?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm gonna go get a job over there and take care of you and Keisha." So for some odd reason, I had this concept in my mind of taking care of the family. Fast forward, Claude did mention how we met. Previous to that, I was in Coconut Creek High School, is where I came from. We got evicted out of the home that we were in. So it led us, when we moved Piper High School, I purposely started school late so I can be that guy. And it worked out pretty well because when I knew what would happen if I got in there. But she did tell the story about how we first met, and she was standing in front of me in formation. Listen, junior ROTC, guys, let me tell you something. Join programs, because when she was standing in front of me, this is called explicit, I was like, "Who is that? Tony, who's that?" Now, mind you, I didn't know she was listening, and he was like, "That's Claudine." I was like, "Claudine?" I was like, "She got a man?" He was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I'm gonna be her man." And so, listen, mind you, she's listening to all of this. I had no idea. So the story is behind that is she got all dolled up that weekend. She knew I was going to talk to her eventually. I got the nerves to finally talk to her. Monday came around, and we're standing in formation, and I got the nerves. I said, "Okay, I'm going to pull her, and I'm going to walk her over here, and I'm going to talk to her." I tapped her. I said, "Can I talk to you?" I have no idea what was going through her head, but I was nervous. So I walk over, and I say to her these words. I'd never said these words in my life before this, nor after this. I said, "You like me, I like you, I'm gonna be your man, and we're gonna get married one day." Wow. I can't make that up. And she said, "Okay." Wow. And I don't think we even said another word to each other after that. They called us back to formation. I shook my way back to formation. And I said to myself, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna walk back to the spot. If she comes over, I got her." So they let us out of formation. I walked back to the spot, and she walked over, and I said, "Yeah, I got her." She and I, we've been dating ever since. We became best friends before we married. We were dating 5 years before we got married. It took us 6 months before we even kissed. So I could just show you, I really took this relationship serious. I was the guy that dated around. Yes, I was. I wish I didn't. I wish I was able to save that purity for just she and I. It would have made such a big difference. But one of the things that she didn't get to mention really quick, and I'll just touch and end and land the plane on, was when we were living together, and I'll call it shacking up, both families were broken, just tarnished because of what we were doing. And we weren't doing it out of spite. We weren't doing it for anything other than we didn't hear from the Lord. And what happened was when we finally heard from the Lord that this is wrong, he doesn't want us doing this, we stopped right away. And that was that church that she mentioned. So what we did was we quickly put a halt to it. We moved up our wedding. We practiced abstinence. I think it was about 2 months. 2 weeks. It felt like 2 months. And then my daughter's in the stands. Trust me, guys, I'm trying to be explicit here. And it felt like 2 months, guys. It really did. But we put pillows in between us, and we slept in different rooms, and we did everything we had to. It was only 2 weeks, but I thought it was longer. And we got married, and the family was ecstatic, of course. And on that day of our marriage, I'll never forget it. Do you know, you guys ever heard about on your marrying day, if it has like sun showers, like rain, it's a blessing from God? Well, we had a hurricane. And it was, but again, this is literally 21 years later. We have 2 kids. We do everything together. We work out together. We pray together. We have a IG page with over, I think, 100,000 followers that wake up in the morning to watch us pray together. Workout page, we work out together. So we're that power couple where the neighbors want to work out with us in our gym. All the people walk up to us at least weekly. We get 3 couples that say, "You guys are awesome. We love you guys. Just don't stop doing what you're doing." And it's pretty awesome. So without God in our lives, none of that would have ever happened. And I'm pretty happy.
Wow. Now we get to the good part, the questions. You guys excited to learn more? Okay, so we have some good questions. Before we get into the questions, really quick, entrepreneurs, right? Work for yourselves, own your own business, still in school. Okay. And entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs? Okay. So that really affects marriage. And your marriage affects your business, and your business affects your marriage. And I do want to talk a little bit about that. So why don't we actually start off with that? Why don't we ask you guys first? I mean, you're new out of the gate. I know you have a lot of vision, and you're an amazing couple in the way that you're planners. As far as I've seen, you're very, you have it laid out. There's not going to be surprises in your path. You see it and you deconstruct it and you create to get what you want, right? According to what you think God has for you, which is amazing, and why you're here. So tell us a little bit about maybe how you've put that into play into your future, what you're seeing. Just real short.
Sure. Well, I mean, when I think back about what I wanted to do when I grew up, it was I say ministry, but I really just wanted to be a father and a husband. So when I created my business a couple of years ago, when I was really structuring what I wanted to do for business, I wanted it to be something that was passive, something I didn't have to work 40, 50, 60-hour weeks every single year to make money. So it definitely took a long time to get there. I would say it took maybe 2 years of just consistently working, but I feel like now we're at a spot where I can just be home, in January, that was the month leading up to the wedding, and I didn't really work, but it was still coming in. So if we had to pick a difficult time for us, I would say is when we were dating, maybe a year or 2 ago, I would work 12-hour days, nonstop. Just to build up that business, which a little bit of backstory, it's a pet sitting and dog walking business. Now, I know I talked a little bit about it. So I would have to do all the pet sitting and dog walking, which got exhausting, So now I have 11 employees who do all the visits. I don't have to worry about it. It's completely passive. So when I do work, it's working from home. And that has really allowed us to have a life of intentionality with each other and to set us up for when we do have kids. I don't have to be away for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, however often, I can be home, she can be home, and we can raise our kids together and have our family together.
Amazing that you thought that out and you put that into play even before you were married. That's incredible, and you don't see that much with young people. And also you spend time doing ministry as well, right? So it's not just work. There's other times like tonight that you're taking your time to be here. And this is serving, this is ministry. So let's jump over to you guys. I know you do a lot of ministry. Can you talk about how that plays into your marriage and your time as a family? Is it draining? Even just the work ministry?
Yeah, so I sort of touched on how we do everything together, which is kind of odd for couples. I even used to go with her when she gets her hair done. And the hairdressers just be like, "Why is he with you?" Kidding. No, a little bit. But no, ministry, even at the Hazims, at church, I started praise and worship, and my wife is right there next to us, and now we're the praise and worship leaders together. So one thing that I noticed was ministry. I'll touch on that. So when I was about 24, 25 or so, I became a deacon, and I was just gun ho, and I took it very serious. And because of the simple fact that it's all about God, I didn't know the order, and I didn't take the order in the way that it was supposed to be taken, as in my wife and where she stands in that. And so I mean, serving was everything to me. So when I say that, I mean, I would go into church on early. I would serve on Saturday nights. That was the nights that we would go to church, as she mentioned. And it made it very hard for her because here it is, we have 2 kids. So she has to get the kids ready. She has to pack the kids. She's feeding the kids. She's doing everything with the kids. And I didn't realize the stress that I was placing on her. So I really took and I placed ministry before our marriage when it really needs to flip-flop. So we have
It's
to
like
keep,
a workaholic, but in a different category.
but in a different category, right? So we really had to look at it, and it took a little while before I finally realized, because I wasn't even being fed. I needed to be fed, and the higher uppers, the elders, they weren't realizing, hey, I need to be fed, and this is the week, this is the day that we go to church. Yeah. So basically, it put a strain on the marriage. If there was ever a strain, that was one of the things that was really difficult for us, and that was simply because I wanted to do so much for the ministry that I wasn't actually there for my wife. Right. So it was important for me to realize that. And
how about you guys? I know you had kids right out of the gate, and then you became self-employed, and, you know, was it your goal to be an entrepreneur? Because at first you worked somewhere.
Yeah, so so like I said, I went to University of Miami. I ended up studying sports administration. I'm at this point pretty much anti-college, and believe that like the only reason that you should go to college is if the job you want requires it. You know, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an accountant. You know, where like you need the degree, you need that paper that you get in order to get the job you want. But not the case with me, and ultimately, you know, any education that you get at a university, you can now find for free online. So if you just want the education, just go to Google. Don't pay for it. But
unless you need the piece of paper.
Unless you need the piece of paper, yeah. And so I took a job out of college just to take a job. It was a buddy of my dad's had this software startup company. He heard that I graduated, invited me to come by the office. Before I left the office, he offered me a job. Ended up working inside sales there for 4 years. I know now why, you know, talking about all things working together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. God put me in a job doing inside sales, selling on the phone. When I left that, we started a business providing care for seniors, where the way that you sign the client is on the phone. So God gave me that education. We've been 4 years taking care of seniors, and now God has led me into a new career path where I'm selling on the phone to seniors. So he gave me a job for 4 years selling on the phone, 4 years taking care of seniors, and now I'm doing something selling on the phone to seniors. So definitely able to see how God is working all things for good. But to answer the direct question, I always in theory love the idea of working for myself, being self-employed, not having a boss. But I wouldn't say I ever really had the dream or plan of that. And I think the biggest thing that I've realized is that I may be the head of my household, but this is the CEO of our businesses. And so so I may lead the family, but she's really in charge and has made all the decisions when it comes to business. And I would not be self-employed without her.
Wow. Val, you want to add on?
Oh, we also have a golf cart
and how
rental
did that
company.
come about?
Someone told me that they were selling it, and I said I wanted to buy it.
Because you just needed more things to do. Right?
Yeah, I wasn't busy.
Yeah, so we now, in addition to senior care, we have a golf cart rental company where we rent golf carts to vacationers in Delray, and that was really a godsend too, because she, like the senior care thing is great. It's a business I believe in. It's also super heavy. Ultimately, nobody wants to need our services. Anybody that has our services in place, it's because they have to. They can no longer take care of themselves. And ultimately, the way that we lose clients is they pass away. And so it's a super heavy business. So she'd been telling me for a long time, that I needed something fun. And now we rent golf carts, which is
And that's fun.
And so
Good.
God just placed that in our laps, and she told me, like she did with her first business, that, hey, we're doing this. Like, you don't have a say in the matter. But
That doesn't sound good.
yeah, but it's really worked out well.
Good.
So
Awesome. Well, Dea, I'm sure you have some questions brewing.
Do. Okay, so Dennis and Claudine, how can you tell the difference between love at first sight and infatuation?
I don't know if there's really a love at first sight. I think it always starts off with maybe some infatuation. I think love comes as you grow with that person. I think it takes time. It takes knowing that person. It takes, going to church with that person, just living life with that person. And I think that's where love comes in is, I don't think, like they say it's at first sight, like Dennis said when he met me at first sight, but it was infatuation. So I think it takes time and effort.
From the guy's perspective, I was in love when I first saw her. I knew she was going to be my wife. Listen,
Wow.
guys, that's not the norm, I promise you. It's not very many couples that would actually say that, but I knew, which still was infatuation, all right? It wasn't really love at first sight to really answer that.
That's a good answer.
I like that point because I've heard many couples who've been with each other for years say they didn't really know that they loved them until the other partner couldn't do anything for them and they had to take care of them while they were sick. And that's when he knew, I love this woman. She can't do anything. She can't give me anything. And here I am serving her still and loving her and taking care of her. So I love that because I think it can start with ooh, they look good. And then it goes from that to I'm gonna serve you. I love you,
That's true. And how about the other couples? Because I think this is a great question. Did you feel like it was love at first sight at first, or what?
definitely wasn't for either of us. I mean, God was, from Val's perspective, can I speak for you? And from Val's perspective, so God told Val that I was her husband before we were really even friends. And when God told her that, her response was absolutely not. And it really, it really was just God's perfect timing, because I was, interested in her, but not in the way that I kind of normally was with girls. And then we actually had a come to Jesus moment outside of a friend's house, which we each tell the story differently. But my recollection of the story was her, essentially saying, "Hey, what is this? Because I'm not going to live in the gray. Either we're something or we're not."
How did you exactly get that point across over to him? Let's hear what you have to say, Val. How did you let him know?
Many that don't know me, I'm a very straightforward person, so it was pretty straightforward. I told him there's no more calling me babe. There's no more guiding me through the door with your hand in my back. There's not more going oh, funny. I was like, you can't touch my knee. And the calling me babe in front of people, it's not a thing. We're friends. And that's pretty much it. I told him, I was the first thing I said, what is this? What are we doing? Because I'm not doing the guiding me through the door like you did, and I would list. Or calling me babe, no. That's pretty much it. I'm very
So you
straightforward.
wanted clear boundaries.
Yeah,
You
because
weren't
I
playing
wasn't,
around.
no.
Okay.
It definitely, only because if I didn't want him to develop feelings for me, if it wasn't going to be anything, and I didn't want to develop any feelings for him, if it wasn't going to go in, if it was just oh, I feel really comfortable next to you, I don't really like you, but we could be, then I was no.
Yeah, and so we were living in a gray area where nothing was defined, and then she brought me that question. I had a trip planned for that week to go away to Colorado. So I was like, I don't know what this is. Let me go away to Colorado and I'll pray about it, and when I, figure that out, I'll come back and tell you. And ultimately, that trip to Colorado, God just confirmed it like the first day that this was my wife. And we like when I returned from that trip, we went on our first date on a Thursday night, and before the following weekend, so less than 9, like on the 8th day, we put a down payment on our wedding venue. So, so we both knew, from that moment. Yeah, it sounds so. I would not advise it to anybody ever, but it's what happened. But yeah, so we went from a totally gray area to God confirming, black and white, clear as day for both of us that this was our forever. And then once we knew that, then we weren't gonna wait around just to wait around.
All right, and let's hear from our fresh newlywed couple. Was it love at first sight? And
Well-
how did you know it was time to get married?
For me, he was my first boyfriend too. So I'd never had a boyfriend. I'd always just had crushes, so I'd only ever known infatuation. Like I was like, oh, like I would like romanticize everything. I was like, they're so amazing, like oh, they're so cute. And then the moment they'd start to like me, I'd get like the ick and be like, oh, I don't like it. No, I don't like. Yeah, I don't like them anymore. So when I met him, I didn't even really know I liked him until like a certain point. Like I just knew I enjoyed being around him. Like he was the first person I actually met on my interview day. He was like, but we were wearing masks, so I didn't even know his like actual face. I just knew it was like this part. But we went to the beach for a party, and that was the first time we'd ever hung out. And I don't know, we just like clicked. Like we just had so much fun. And I was like, oh, I like him. And I kind of knew you liked me. And it was like the first time a guy ever liked me back, and I didn't like want to like run the other direction. And that night, actually, after the beach, I had like the most amazing dream. And sometimes like God will talk to me through dreams. And this dream felt real. Like I did not want to wake up. And I woke up so sad because I was like, oh, like that's never going to happen. Like why would we end up together? Like he might not even like me. Like
What was the dream?
it was just like, I don't even know. Like it was just a dream where we were like together and like we were just so happy, and it just everything. And then actually I had another dream after we started talking where we had, like this is how I knew we were going to get married, was I had a dream that we had a daughter, and I was like looking at her, and she had his eyes, and I was just like so happy. And
what confirmation?
yeah, that's how I knew, because I was like, I kept praying. I was like, God, if he's not for me, just take him out of my life. Like, like I didn't, because I knew I never wanted a date for nothing. It was always because I wanted to get married, and he was the same way. So we like started out like, let's just be friends, let's become best friends, let's know everything about each other, ask all the hard questions, and then we can date. Because like it was more like courting, I guess you could say.
The
And
interview.
yeah, and a few months in, I had a dream where we had a daughter, and I was like, okay, we're gonna get married. But yeah, like I don't know, and yeah, I think that when I knew I loved you, he said he loved me very early, and
Let's hear that story.
yeah, I'll let you tell it. But he said he loved me. I felt bad. I didn't feel it. I liked him a lot, but I didn't feel it. So I was like, I love you. At first I was like, I don't want to say it because you said it, and I was like, and then I felt bad, so I was like, I love you too. But I didn't. I was like, eh. And I started like freaking out a little bit. And on my birthday, it was my first birthday. I think that's when you met him, actually, on my birthday party. He was being so sweet to me. Like, and I was like, this is too much. He likes me too much. I can't handle it. Like, this is, I don't know. Like, I started like kind of feeling like I wanted to like I didn't know if I liked him enough. And when he left to go to work that day, I just sat outside and started praying. I was like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, he really likes me. I don't know if I love him. And then I think it's when you came back and like I was so happy to see you. I think that's when I knew like I loved you, because I was like, I love that I don't mind him taking care of me. Like, I don't know. I just loved you. Yeah.
And what do you say? 7 days ago they were married.
I know.
Fresh.
8 days ago. Well, she was also my first girlfriend, so neither one of us had ever dated before dating each other, which was very unique. And we
And
definitely.
A huge gift to each other.
Yes, it was
Right?
a huge gift, and we basically had to like learn how to date with each other. You know, like we had never like dated before, so it was like new. It definitely wasn't love at first sight. Not that there was anything like wrong, but it was just like we were all in masks. Like there was no sight. You know, it was just like. So. But yeah, so we definitely like we started talking, and we were like so engaged with each other, and we literally talked about like heaven and hell the first time we started talking.
Wow.
Like deep stuff. Like we was just like, and that's when I knew. I was like, well, that's not when I knew, but like that's always what I wanted, was something serious, and I never wanted to just like play around and hookup culture, nothing like that. I was never interested in that, and we just always had these deep conversations, and we were always able to just really get on the same page with a lot of important things. And we definitely grew in love with each other more and more. So,
You have a question about that, what he's just said, right? The hookup culture.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's wild out here, okay, in these streets. Okay, how has hookup culture impacted true love? Who wants to answer? You can answer since you're on that.
I can answer. So, I actually was doing research for this question. I found a study which I thought was interesting.
Let's go!
But
Studies!
I think that hookup culture has really created an imposter of love. Like it's do what makes you feel good, do what makes you happy. Just there's no truth anymore. There's no true love. True love is based in truth. And then hookup culture, it's more like lust or temporary feelings that are fleeting. And Forbes came out with a study this year, and a lot of the findings in this study I think are very interesting. It says couples who live together before marriage are more likely to divorce.
Wow.
Having friends who are divorced increases your risk of divorce. From a biblical perspective, I think that really just depends on their role in the divorce. But it also says divorcees are more likely to die earlier than married people. Lack of commitment is the most common reason for divorce. And 60% of divorced couples cited infidelity as a reason for their divorce. And I think hookup culture has really just accelerated the lack of commitment that people have for each other, because I think it's really feeding into that feeling of just do what makes you feel good. Like just your truth. Do what makes you happy. You do you. And all these things, I think it really just feeds into that. And there's no like morals, or there's no like guidelines of like, no, God created sex for marriage. God created relation, like you're supposed to date to find your spouse, like have those end goals in mind, and when you kind of just do whatever makes you happy, it doesn't lead to anything good.
So good. Yeah, so there's a follow-up question to that, and anyone can answer this. Why is sex before marriage bad?
I'll keep going.
Well, because the opposite of hookup culture would be saving yourself,
Yeah.
right? So maybe talk about how you came to that decision in your marriage or pre-marriage.
Well, I think when you look at sex, you have to look at why God created it. God didn't create sex for a man and a woman. God didn't create sex for a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. God created sex for a husband and a wife. Wow. So when you look at that,
bars,
and when you look at
bars,
when you look at why sex was created, it's for a husband and a wife. And anything outside of that is outside of God's plan. And it only leads to destruction in the end, and really perverts your view of what sex is supposed to be. And it's supposed to be a beautiful thing. But if you don't do it in God's plan and in God's will, it's not going to be. It's going to be very destructive and very not what God wants it to be.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there and those watching on YouTube Live that are wondering how in the world do you accomplish that? Because that's not average.
It is
That's
not
way
easy.
above average.
Yeah. Not having sex before marriage. God gave us these desires, so it's not something to be ashamed of that you have these things. He gave it to you. It's okay to have it. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. But he gave it to you with someone very special in mind. So when you find someone that you think you want to marry, I think this actually, really, it's only going to grow your relationship. If you're both able to come to this decision together where you're like, we're not going to do this, this is like off limits, it opens the door for other things to just deepen and grow. Like a lot of that time you spend sneaking around and doing all these things and feeling guilty, like all of that could be spent like just furthering your relationship together and just like saving that for when you're married. And then you just, I don't know, you can enjoy it in a whole nother way because you know each other so deeply. That's not like, it's not like I guess a sham of what it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to add to that, as being together for so long, you remember in our story, once God told us that we should stop having sex, what I want to say to you guys is it's not too late. Even if you started having sex, even if that's something that you guys are doing, you can put a halt to it. And you could immediately practice abstinence because what you're doing is you're honoring God, all right? And that's the way to look at it and say, you know what, this is something that I know that I shouldn't be doing, so we have to put a halt on this. And one of the kids that Andrea and Dr. Jeff disciples, I remember talking with him, and he said that to me. This was early on at going to the church, and it blew my mind because you don't hear much kids say that. And he says, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I put a halt to it. We broke up, and that's that. So listen, take that type of advice.
Wow. Well, we have about 5 minutes left for Q&A, and then we're going to split off, actually. The guys are going to go in the room right next door, and the girls are going to come here for a little more deep girl talk, and over there, some deep guy talk. So I know there's going to be topics that if we don't touch on in here, it'll be touched on there. But a lot of what we're talking about is this question about how important is having the same values as your partner before you get married, right? And I know when you met at Chick-fil-A, the topic evenly yoked came up, right? So which is that, having the same values? For those of you who don't know that term, evenly yoked, if you're a farmer and you put together your oxen or however you're going to plow and do work, they wear like that bridle on their neck, right? So they can walk at the same time and pull the plow. That's called a yoke. So in marriage, when you want to have the same values, some people say evenly yoked. And why is it a bad idea to not be with somebody who has the same values? Who wants to take that as maybe our last question?
So the thing that I've learned in marriage, our first 4 years of marriage, is that there are so many decisions to be made. And to answer the question quite simply, if your decision-making process is not founded in the same thing, then you're not even going to be able to make a decision together, let alone the right decision. Right. And so I think it's so important for us. Like at the end of the day, I know that all Val wants is God's will to be done in her life and in our lives. And so starting at that foundation, that allows us to make a decision with that focus in mind. What we want is for God's will to be done. So when we're having to make a decision, it's what would most honor God. And if you're not starting with that foundation or starting with the same focus point, then like I said, you're not even going to be able to arrive at a decision, let alone the right one.
Great answer. I recommend, remember the book I recommended years ago, Knight in Shining Armor? Some of you maybe have read that because I recommended it, but that book changed my life. And in that book, for those of you who don't know, I was married before my amazing husband that I have now, 25 years, in a physically abusive 1.5 year hell that was against everybody in my life who loved me's will. They all said, don't do it, and I did it. Why? Because I was immature, emotionally and spiritually, and had a lot of rebellion, which is, fast forward to today, why I do the work I do. Because I know how important it is when you are not mature emotionally and spiritually that you make the bad decisions because you don't know who you are and you don't know your values and you don't stand on it like a rock. So you could be tossed all around, right? So I had to learn the hard way. I want you guys to not have to learn it the hard way, right? But that book, in the book, the author talks about making your list. Not your list like, I want this, I want that. What does God have for you? Like, receive the list. Let it be a download. And when I wrote that list, I met my husband actually on a mission trip. I was interviewing him based on my list. And he literally looked at me, he goes, check, right? I go, what? He goes, I know what you're doing. I have a list too. I'm like, oh, well, okay, then let's literally, like Val said, like, we're not playing around. I was already 30, I had been divorced, and I was disgusted that I was divorced, and I'm never doing that again. So I got serious, like Tiago talked about. Like, I had a burning desire that I'm not reliving that, and I'm going to make an about face, and I needed tools. That book was the tool. So when you're talking about learning how to be evenly yoked or matching your values, if you haven't written it down, dreamed it up, gotten a download, how do you know who this person is that you're looking for? How do you know you're going to be able to work things out with them and have amazing conflict resolution? Only one person's allowed to be crazy at a time. Or, you know what I mean? So this has been an amazing conversation. And what we're going to do next is the guys are going to pick up some chairs from the stacks back there, and you're going to go in that back room over there. The male panelists, the mentors that have been spoken, the first half and the second half, kind of sit towards the front, and then everybody make a big circle around, right? So it's like a round conversation, all right? And then you guys, you know, and Tiago lead the conversation. Let it be mostly questions at first. And some of the topics that unfortunately we ran out of time was, you know, there's things like sex before marriage. That could be inside a marriage. Maybe it didn't happen with the person you married, but it happened in your past. Like, I know for me, sorry that my husband, I gave myself to him not being a virgin. And, you know, because I didn't know. I never saw anything like this in my life. Honestly, like, I wish I had this. Had I had this, because what they're saying is self-worth. I'm worth it. I'm worth giving myself because I'm a prize, right? I didn't know that. I didn't know one girl who got married a virgin, not one. We just all, like, you love your boyfriend, you sleep with him. Like, that's what we did. We didn't know. Had I seen something like this, I would have been like, me too. Why don't I think of myself that way? I'm valuable too. Like, I would have had a big new idea. So that's why we do this show. So please dig deep, ask good questions when we split up about everything. And the pornography topic came up. We didn't get to dig down into that. So did you guys enjoy the second half? Give them a big hand. Okay. The girls, we're going to stay in here. If you need to run to the bathroom really quick, if you need to. This isn't like a 10-minute break. If you need to, use the restroom. And guys, you can go around in that other room. Day is going around, and she's giving you a two-sided little flyer. Please don't throw it away or lose it. This is it for you. We are doing a fun survey prize because we want your feedback on today. Like I said, we want to see this go on the road. So the data from you guys of how we can improve it, what you like the most, what you think how we could fix it, is really like a gift back to us. Today was a free event. Usually TLT, there is an expense, but I wanted to just raise awareness and bless people and have a great studio audience. So please scan that, fill it out, and then everybody who did that survey today, maybe not right now, but tonight, before today's over, we are going to put your name in a like a raffle, and you will win a $50 gift card. All right, so is it worth $50 to fill out a survey? I think so. Only once, because your name's going to go on it. Then the other side, see what it says? Explicit is going on the road. So this is meant for you to take to your school principal, your guidance counselor, your coach, your youth pastor, Shiloh Hazim. No. Trying to get his attention, my son there. Okay. Shh. This is really important, you guys. I do this, and I pour out, and I give, and I love to put these kinds of things together, not for me. It's for you, for a future generation. I want to see somebody take over this organization and run Elevate Life one day, or come with a new program and go, let's do this. And I'm like, let's go. I'm ready. I'm here to back you guys up. So see what it says at the top? High school and college assemblies, chapels, youth groups, and who knows who else. So please put this in the hands of whoever. Is a great website with a promo video. This the footage from today is going to be posted so people can watch a sample one. They'll see today's. And they aren't always like, I know today we talked a lot about God. I don't censor my speakers if people come from that faith-based place, but Elevate Life in itself is an educational foundation. It's not necessarily, sorry, a faith-based program. So in our sleepaway trainings, we're not like, oh, go to this Bible verse, or you need to come have Jesus come to the altar. So I just want you to know that. Like today, it might have felt like that for you, and that's okay, but that's not what Elevate Life is totally about. So I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm not going to give that to my public school because that's a Christian organization. No, we can bring this anywhere and talk about faith or not talk about faith. Values are values. Serving leadership is serving leadership. Having people who care about others is very important in this world. Oh my goodness, I need a drink. Say something from her.
Okay. So also this really helps if you guys do the surveys, because let's practice serving. If you serve in doing this, it will help get this out there. And so it'll just create a cycle of serving and purpose and goodness. So let this be your incentive to do it. Like a challenge to all of you. Please fill it out. And then we can go ahead and share this and take it nationally. And she is back.
Okay. So my favorite
Oh,
part,
let's go internationally. Forget nationally. Let's go
my favorite
everywhere.
part of the TLT program, anytime we do a training, is something called shares. Raise your hand if you've been to a TLT training and you know what I'm talking about. Okay. We have time for maybe 2 or 3 shares. And what I mean by shares, well, you alumni know, it's where I say you matter and your voice matters. And maybe you weren't up here on the panel, but maybe you have something in your heart that you're like, you know what, I've been wanting to say this all day. Here is a platform. So please, raise your hand. If there's some, I'm good at calling on people too. But if you have something, don't hesitate to say it. I don't know why I keep looking at you, Mr. Steven, but not today. What day? Oh, that means it is today. Steven, pretend we're at Purpose Academy and we're talking at chapel.
Not today.
1 minute. Okay. Steven came with me. I know I could do this with him. He's like a kid in my home. He grew up 2 doors away, and he always has deep thoughts. I had him speak at a chapel at a school one day and was really not that prepared, and he changed some lives. So what do you think about today? Just what do you think about today and serving leadership?
I'm on the spot here. For me, the biggest thing is like, in my life right now is like business. So when he's talking about serving leadership is like the best way to have either a great outcome or a bad outcome. Is like, and also a big thing is that you said that this wasn't a Christian foundation. And almost every time that we do this, God finds his way in. So it's like, you just see that he's at the root of everything. And so keeping him your priority is really where I'm trying to find balance right now with how do I progressively try to get better and knowing what comes along with that life while keeping him as a priority. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but I think that trying to find that balance and, you know, if God is your priority, and I don't want to make it just singularly to people who are believers, but like I just find myself when I get on my knees in the morning, if I do end up doing that, getting on my knees in the morning and praying to God, it's always a better day for me because starting off my day right, starting in the right mindset helps me go throughout my day while I already won the battle in the morning because I've got him with me by my side. So like just finding that and finding the balance of like, and especially for like my young men in the room, of being a strong man in this society where they tell us to be weak today is like trying to find that too, and encouraging your brothers and finding accountability, and iron sharpens iron. So all of those things, I guess it's kind of general, but that's all I have to say, if that helps.
It's awesome. Actually, give it to the girl right next to you. So this is Leilani's little sister, and Angelina came to TLT in July, and I think that it impacted her, and she made an impact because she did speak there. And so I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot. I just want to hear, what'd you think of today? Because you didn't get to see Explicit in July because we didn't do it then. What'd you think about the show? What was your favorite part?
Like the whole day?
Everything from today.
My favorite part was just hearing like everybody's experiences and just how like you're really not alone. Like everybody comes from different backgrounds and has their own stories, but even though it's not a Christian-based thing, you can hear how everybody finds their way back to God, and I really love hearing it. So,
is there any new thought that you took away from today? Something new?
Well, just like it's like repetition. Like I just hear like repeated things that I need to hear and like meditate on and pray about.
It reinforces it.
Yeah.
Awesome. But
I have one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So no. So the thing I had to say is just like
Thank you,
that now that I have time to think about it, because when you put it on me like that, I'm like trying to pull something out of my.
Yeah, you're getting good at it.
So the leadership thing, right, is like what he was saying with the 4 categories. You have somebody who terrible things has happened to them, and a person who also grew up with a good life, and they both turn out ugly people. And then you have somebody that they had a good life, and then you have the other person that terrible things happen to them, but they turn out beautiful people. And when my life completely turned around is actually through TLT. The constant like reinforcing message of we take responsibility for our own actions and we have control of our destiny. Like obviously God plays a part in it too, but ultimately we have control of our destiny. And so once you start taking a responsibility mindset towards everything in life and not looking at life as the victim, like things are happening to you, and you are the thermostat, not the thermometer, as my dad would say, that's when everything changes. You start taking responsibility, so.
Awesome. Any of the new people? Okay. Say your name.
My name is Elijah. Something I learned today was strongly about identity, which is something I've been struggling for a long time. Yeah, identity and just learning how to be like going after your goals and how to set goals and going after them and not just sitting there waiting, because like if you sit there and wait, they're never going to happen. You're never going to accomplish your goals that way. And something I've also learned with entrepreneurship is just saving up and putting money aside towards your business and whatever that is. Like with me, that would be music. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to go far with music, so I'm going to have to go further, like figure out something else that I love doing. But yeah.
We have to have a private conversation about that. Yes, but thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Any other new people? Girls, guys, anybody? What was your favorite part of today? Come on, give him the mic. No, you want to share? Do you want to share your favorite part of today? No? Girls? Any of you girls? No? Okay. So Isaiah, we need a dance song because we're going to dance it out. If you don't want to dance. Oh, also, the video team is going to be out there in the hallway area. They're going to reset this room for another event. So we do have to, like, after we leave this circle, head out that way, grab your personal items, and head out that way. But they're going to be doing video reviews. So if you didn't share here publicly, and even if you did, and we can get it on camera, please don't just leave, because that's just as important as the surveys. So Isaiah, give us some pump-up jams. And thank you guys so much for being here today. Please take those surveys, share them, do them, and give those papers to somebody. Take a t-shirt too. We have the Live Generously shirts there for you guys to take. It's free. So, thank you.